Hello, everyone, and welcome to Canadians with Disabilities and their Allies. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host. The show is also known as PWD Allies Podcast. Check it out on Spotify or your favorite app. Today is a very awesome day. We're going to be doing just a segment here of 2023, a year in review. And today I have Neil, my editor-producer, joining me, as well as Bertie, my secretary. And it's always great having Bertie joining us and just kind of reviewing the year 2020.
Is she your secretary or is she our secretary, Brent?
She's our secretary. Yes, she's part of the show. And it's always awesome that Bertie does so many amazing things behind the scenes to keep things going, as well as Neil. You're amazing. You keep this show going. It's way better than I could ever do. I could never do all this myself. With the help of everybody that's involved, including Sonia. Sonia is actually part of the show too. I have to include Sonia in it because Sonia keeps me on my toes.
I always call her your Steven Spielberg.
Yeah,
Except we have to come up with the with a female equivalent. Who's a really good female director? I don't know.
Sonia.
Probably
Sonia. Sonia.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Sonia is Sonia.
Okay.
Yeah. Funny where I'm going to dive right into this, where a year in review is, I remember one of the funny episodes, and we'll start from the beginning, but there's one part, just before we get going, this part that always stands out in my mind when Neil gives me the go ahead, the green light, go ahead, there, and there was one time, Bertie, I remember looking down, and it was a note that I was kind of looking over for a guest. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah. And it was like a little bullet note, right? And it was like a little headline. Yeah, okay. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm not going to forget this. Neil goes, you're on, Brent. You're live. Oh, hi, everybody.
Well, I hate to say it, that Brent, it happened more than once. Probably happened like 4 or 5 times actually, but it's funny.
Yeah,
it's funny though. It's funny.
And after that, I've now pay attention. And it's always the number one center of attention.
I think a couple podcasts ago, I was off the screen. My camera wasn't centered, so I was pointing, but you couldn't even see my hands. So I was like, I had to make sure my hand was in the view of the screen there. Yeah.
I always get a good laughing moment.
But your guy's jank is adorable, and I appreciate it, not because I get to catch it once in a while, and it's never to say, oh, Neil made a mistake, or Brent, there's a typo in something. It's never about that. You guys are both just authentically yourselves, and that's your charm to me.
Well, you know what? I've learned even right from the beginning. I just wing it, right? And people say, "Well, how do you just do these things?" I said, it just comes to me naturally. Things in life just come to me naturally, where I'm just myself. I just be myself, and that's it. I just throw it out there, and that's it. I just hardball it, right? Or softball, catch. Yeah.
But this year had a lot of changes.
It did.
Right? In the format.
It did.
Yes, I'm really excited about the changes that we did over the time we've progressed through 2023, and wow, amazing! We're last day of the year today, 2023. But how did
sorry, Brent, I just wanted to jump in. This today is our 88th episode, and when you think of let's rewind the tape all the way back to the very beginning of January of this year. And remember that I had that bad fall and I broke my hip. So that really put a little bit of a hiatus on the show, really. So in reality, we actually didn't really get the show going until like I think it was kind of mid-February. Honestly, we only had a couple shows at the beginning of January, only because, like I said, I had that bad fall and I was in the hospital for a while, and yeah. So when you think about it, we did a lot. And I know when you were on Twitter Spaces, you pumped out was a little bit over 100. I think it was 102 shows or something. But it seemed to me, and of course I was still producing all that stuff too. But it seemed to me like when you did all those shows, it seemed like a shitload more. Like it seemed like everything was like crammed in, and it was like a lot. And this year we almost did the same amount of work, but it didn't seem quite it didn't seem quite as bad.
Yeah, because it was spaced out a lot. It was spaced out a lot better. It was more efficient this way.
And it not it is a lot of work to put these things out. It does take a lot to produce everything. Like not even this podcast, but all of your segments that you do, like your traveling segments and your Breaking with Brent. Like it all takes time and energy to do. But it seemed like it just everything kind of went smooth, and it
it appeared like it flowed.
Yeah. It really did.
More naturally, like knowing Neil and yourself, right? Like when I did see the posts come out, it seemed to flow more with Neil's. It flowed better in a lot of ways because the time of the shows was between Brent, your schedule and Neil's schedule and the guests, right? As opposed to coordinating a whole bunch of, other factors, right? Which had been a thing in the past.
Yeah, and I think what was really, and again, like going back to Twitter Spaces, like I never really spent a lot of time with the open mics, as you know,
right.
But that was even a stressor for me, and we've talked about this, is because you let those things go so long, and you didn't leave a break between the first guest sometimes and the open mic, so I was left like in a lurch waiting for the audio, and then having to like purse all that audio. Like there was so much like crappy audio. It took me so long. And Bertie remembers too, like we got good at the end. Like remember Bertie, we found a good, audio ripper at the end there, and it helped, but it still took a lot of work for even just like I broke everything down to 15-minute segments, and that was a crap load of work to do that. And now we can just record the episodes, and I'm not changing any of the audio. The only thing I do again when we put the audio up on Spotify or Apple or one of those is I trim the beginning of the episode and trim the end, because there's some lead in at the beginning and some lead in at the end that I trim off, and that's it. I don't monkey around with the audio at all after that.
But that brings me to the first, like the biggest change this year, right, Neil, is that you're also incorporating Apple Play. Well, it's not Apple Play Music, Apple Music and Spotify.
Yeah,
right?
and Google and all the rest of them.
And Google too.
Yeah. And you managed to work it into a routine of getting up pretty smoothly.
Yeah,
on Spotify,
like that. It was. It took me a while. Like I had to learn how to do that because I never worked with Spotify. But it's surprisingly easy actually. I mean, everything takes time, of course, but it was actually pretty painless to set up because when you set up a Spotify account, they have kind of automatic links where you can just farm out to other podcasting things like Apple and Google right from within the Spotify creators thing. So
Oh,
you can automatically, when you put something out on Spotify, it automatically puts everything out to everything else too. So
wow.
that
That's impressive.
really cuts down on the work required. Because you just have to do the work once, and then it's copied to another, like, I don't know,
That's so
5 or 6
neat.
sources or whatever. So that's kind of cool too.
That is. That's neat. Oh, I like that. You know, because people ask me in general, like around the neighborhood, like where is it broadcasted from? So I tell them, they're like, oh well, I'll check it out for sure. Oh, I love your podcast, by the way. I listen to it on YouTube. I'm like, oh, you do? Yeah, I subscribe. I'm like, wow. And you'd be surprised on some of the people I bump into in the hill. They're like, yeah, no, I've already subscribed to that.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. And so the popularity of it is really picking up because it is like it's always been based on a lived experience.
yeah.
That's what the whole show is about. It's all about
And I
anyone
do
who has,
love that we focus on that. Like, that's always been the
yeah.
primary focus, and I love that. And we
Hmm.
had those roundhouse roundtables, we call them, and they were great.
Yeah.
And now we're
Yeah.
doing the disability stories, and that's been great.
Hmm.
A highlight of the disability stories for me, of course, we have Cassandra's story, her being homeless, but also Tom, the first episode we did with Tom. I mean, that really powerful episode. I was so
Yes.
happy with that one.
Yeah, me too.
It was really, really good. And I was just gonna quickly run through as a
Mm.
highlight for for people that might have missed a few of our earlier episodes. Here is a quick list of all the real big VIP politician, like either MPs or MLAs that have come onto your show. You ready for this?
All
So
right.
right at the top of the list, we have Mike Morris, and he showed up for episode 5, episode 45, and episode 85. So he was on the show 3 times.
Wow.
And then the one that I really love too is that we had Peter Julian on for episode 12, and that for me as a producer, I wanted so bad for him to come on, and it was so
Yes.
great that because I mean, again, going back to your Twitter Spaces, we all know
Yeah.
what happened with that
Yeah.
when he was
Yeah.
on Twitter Spaces. It was a gong show, right? But
Yeah.
it wasn't something that you could have controlled. Like there was somebody that acted up and got out of hand and lashed out at Peter Julian, and you are not able to, like, the show kind of hung up, it kind of
Mhm.
locked up, right?
Froze. Yeah. Froze.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so
That was the.
poor Peter Julian kind of bore the brunt of that, and so I was really happy when he was able to come on.
I
And so
was.
that was episode 12, and then we had Shane Simpson and
One.
Michael Prince on for episode 19. That was a great episode. The duo, we call them, the dynamic
Yeah.
duo.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we had Dan Davies on for episode 20. We had Elena Lawson on for episode 22 and episode 72.
She's such a great advocate.
Yeah, she's great. And we had Cheryl Hardcastle on for episode 29, 41, and 78.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so she was on for 3 times. Then we
Always
had
lovely to have her on.
then we had the acting, like, she's active, the active minister, Sheila Malcolmson, on for episode 40. That was great to have her on as well.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
was a really big to get her on.
Oh yeah. I look forward to getting her on again too.
Yeah,
The new. Yep.
yeah. And then we had Gene Swanson on for episode 49, and that was a
That was
great
good, yeah.
episode. That was like one of my, like, it had to be like almost, I would say, like in the top 5
Mhm.
for the.
I've been always
I-
wanting to get
yeah.
Gene on.
I loved getting her, like, her knowledge that she had, like, being able to go back through time with her, and
Time travel.
yeah, and it was literally like going into a time capsule, and she was able to,
Yeah.
like, recount everything back from the early 90s, and it was really just super interesting
Yeah.
conversation with her. I really loved that one. And the one of the last highlights we have is Adam Olson. He was on for episode 65. So those kind of were the big name politicians that came on. So that's a pretty big list.
Oh, it is.
And,
it is.
Yeah.
And
So
it just keeps growing and growing as time goes on. More of them keep jumping on,
And Mike Maurice joined you guys most recently, too.
yeah.
yes, he did. Yes.
Yeah, but with the
awesome.
the e-petition, that was
Yeah.
that was a really good episode, because that was a nice another good one that was he paired up. Yeah, it was a really cool one.
Yeah, I actually look forward to
another
that.
dynamic duo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am Sonia first to know in the new year. I'm hoping to try and get her back onto the show too.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she wasn't able to join Adam. That would have been another duo.
We were trying to get her on with Adam, and actually we should say as well, one of the shows that Mike Maurice was on, I think when he came on episode 45, that was actually when I also was reaching out to Benito Zerillo, and I wasn't able to coordinate it to get them both on, but at some point we would like to get her on, and I know she's expressed interest, so she will at some point be coming on, hopefully close to the beginning of the year. So we're looking forward to having her on. I'm looking forward to having Neil from BC Ann's on. We've really tried hard to get him on. There's lots of other guests that we've tried to squeeze in for the year. We couldn't quite squeeze them in, so we're really hoping to circle back to them and get them on for this year coming up.
Yeah, there's a couple people that I'm working on to get back onto the show. Dan Davies, MLA Dan Davies for Peace River North in BC. He's the opposition critic for the social development and poverty reduction in British Columbia. So I'm hoping to get Dan back on. He showed interest, and basically earlier in the year. He's a very busy guy. I mean, as all MLAs or MPs or MPPs across Canada, they're all very busy doing work in their constituency areas and also meetings too, and a lot of things on the go. So touching base and getting him back on is going to be a huge win, because Dan's a huge advocate and wants to see change for the better for British Columbians and also across Canada too. His other colleagues across, they want to keep on pushing and end legislative poverty.
Yeah.
Also another person too, Neil, that I want to bring forward is Dan Cochier.
Yeah, we tried to get him on earlier too, so we'll have to circle back to him. Yeah. It's interesting. We have somebody in chat, Linda Nickerson. She says you should try to get Biff Naked on for 2024, and little does she know. Does she know we're in process of reaching out to her as well, because she's a great advocate for poverty, and she spent years being front and center with the welfare food challenge. That nobody can partake in anymore because it's far too dangerous and unhealthy. But she was always front and center with that. So that's one that we're really looking forward to getting her on, talking about poverty.
Yeah, Linda, just to kind of recap on what Neil has just mentioned, I actually just recently heard Biff Naked on Linda Steele and Jody Vance's show on Czech News. She had she was actually one of their guests that Biff was on, and they did a recap of some of the top highlights throughout 2023 of some of their guests. And again, they did a recap of Biff Naked talking about people on income assistance and the food challenge, and she mentioned about poverty, right? So she's really keen on standing up for people with in legislative poverty. Shouldn't say the word legislative poverty, but I just say how it is because that is how it is. And I believe that having other mentors on and other people who are going through lived experience or see for themselves what people go through is totally bang on. And so thanks for bringing up Biff Naked's name, because yeah, it's one of the guests that we're reaching out to get on.
And we should say too, I mean, one of the big purposes of doing this end of the year show, I mean, anybody that watches knows that usually Sundays are out for me, because I usually end up going to church, and I usually say no. But I thought, it's important that we do this end of year one, and actually because I had fallen, it just so happened that I kind of didn't want to go to church anyway because of my injury still. But anyway, the reason why we're doing this, last episode of the year is to get feedback from everyone of like, what did everybody really enjoy about this year, or also like where do people think we can improve, or what guests do they want to see come on, or what topics do, like any kind of feedback that you can offer, anybody in chat, or just like drop us an email too. I mean,
there was one specific name mentioned in chat there by Alan that I think would be a great one as well, and I hope you can we can add it to the list. So
what's that one?
Sarah Jama.
Oh, okay.
Which, Brent and Neil, you may not be familiar with her as much, because
we know her. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Most definitely. There's always room for anyone to come onto the show. I mean, and I look at ways of improving, like the content of the show, ideas. Just like that, I'm just kind of echoing what Neil has mentioned, is ideas, like throw it our way. Who would you like to see on as a guest? I mean, would you like to come on as a guest? Yeah.
And one comment that Joseph has made in chat is when he said that Bonita might be easier if you pre-record, and that's actually a good point too that we should raise, is anybody that's kind of uncomfortable with the idea of going live. I mean, we've done quite a few pre-recorded episodes, particularly for a couple of like Sheila Malcolmson was one, because I mean, she was only going to be available for 15 minutes, so that one we knew we had to run really tight, so we purposely did that one as a pre-recorded episode, and that went really, really well. So we need to emphasize for any guests that are wanting to come on. And I mean, again, you don't have to be a VIP politician, but if you're not comfortable with the idea of going fast on loose on a live episode, if you want it to be edited and then cut down a little bit, we can very easily do a pre-recorded thing, and those have gone really well. And also too, just as Birdie is not on camera today,
right?
Anybody that's not comfortable with being on camera does not have to be on camera.
Or if you don't have a webcam.
Or if you don't have a webcam, it's not a big deal. Like we can safely say that we prefer prefer to have people on camera, but we know that there are people that don't have a webcam or just don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, they don't feel comfortable.
Yeah,
for sure.
And that's perfectly fine.
You must have been reading my mind, Neil, because I was just thinking about that too just a second ago, because I do know. And I'm not going to, say it, on the podcast, but I do know that there are a couple people that have approached me that would really love to come on to the show. And that's fine. Like exactly what Neil just mentioned, like you don't have to be on camera. Like you can actually be off camera and, have your video, just not showing.
And you can have a cute picture of a penguin.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So if you like penguins, you can have a cute picture of a penguin.
Yeah, or you could have a GIF of one of your favorite GIFs that you have, or I mean, doesn't matter. Because basically everyone's welcome to come on and basically share their stories. I love to hear.
Essentially, the format has always been lent it has always lent itself to being an audio podcast first as opposed to a video
Right.
format, right?
That's how it started.
It's the other content that that Neil heavily edits, right? Like
Yeah.
the Breaking with Brents
Yes.
that
Yeah.
don't lend themselves to the Spotify format.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's actually leading into my question, Neil. Is it what is it that gets pushed to the Spotify playlist? Is it just the show or
the audio that I use, to push to Spotify and all the other podcast providers out there is actually the backup recording that Zoom records. So that's I find that recording is very clean. So I just use that one. So I always have.
But
that
it's not. But that's just it, right? So it would be the recordings as opposed to not the Breaking with Brents. Those don't appear on Spotify.
No, we don't do those. Only the podcasts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think honestly, the Breaking with Brents are usually a pretty visual thing.
Yeah.
You know, that they would lose a lot if you weren't actually watching them with your eyes. And I mean, maybe that's being a little bit too, I don't know. You know, you can say, that's being a little bit unfair to some people that can't see it, but honestly, there is some content that's more visual, and I think the Breaking with Brents is more of a visual content, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, I would have to really be very descriptive on when I'm describing what's going on.
Yeah.
And, with this.
And not certainly, right? Like not everything makes an audio podcast, right?
Yeah.
Just like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
some things are better in video, and
Right.
the Breaking with Brents, for example, are also a lot of Sonia's filming.
Yeah.
Exactly. And a lot of it is just kind of, sometimes it just, a situation happens and I'm just, like, I'm right on the scene and boom, it's just, I'm right there and boom, it just.
Well, you know how a lot of slapstick is very visual, right? I mean,
yes.
One thing I can think of, we always talk about this one, but the one you did last year around this time when you were slipping on the ice, remember?
Oh,
and
yeah.
I mean, you can only see. I mean, you can't really describe it other than to see it. But
yeah.
I mean, it was priceless, you know. And there's so many of those priceless moments on the Breaking with Brent
lived experience situation
that they wouldn't translate well with just audio.
Right, but with everything appearing on YouTube means that the notifications for new content come via YouTube.
Automatic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
automatic.
And that very often, not always, but very often goes to people's email boxes. But that goes over to the next thing, is just to remind people that the calendar that Neil set up last year.
Yeah.
I love that calendar.
It's even good. It's even helpful for me too, because you know, I forget. You know, I always say, and it's a joke, but not really. Like I've always said that my brain has gotten smaller. You know, so it actually helps with me too, because I don't always remember what we have. So as soon as I know a guest is confirmed, I put it in the calendar, and then it's there, and then it doesn't matter if I forget. You know, because
sometimes you and I will talk about like who's coming up, and I'll say, oh, let me look on the calendar. Yeah, Neil, it's so and so at such and such a time. Oh, right, and then or I will actually look through the beginning of the day or the next day of the week, and I'll say, okay, who's coming up today, and I'll look through the calendar, and so it's synchronized, and I really encourage people to look at the calendar to see who's coming up, and they may say, hey, maybe I can. I want to be a guest on such and such a day. Well, then you let us know, and then basically we'll fill the calendar in, and then I know, and then Neil knows, and
we should say there's 3 ways to get to the calendar. There's a whole 3 ways to get to the calendar, and I won't expect like I was gonna make a little contest, but I'll just
Not a split testing
I'll just say it. But the first place to get it is to go to my website, which is www.daddybentlinks.com. And if you scroll over to the media tab, on that you have the calendar posted near the bottom, and it'll say it's also with the thing that says, do you want to be Brent's next guest? So there's a part where somebody can enter in and send off like, yes, I want to be a guest, or if they don't want to be a guest, they can just submit a show idea too, and those things go right to me. But with that is also the calendar link right at the bottom. So that's one spot. The other spot where it is on the actual YouTube channel. There's a community tab. And I've got it pinned. I've got the link to the calendar pinned on the community tab as the top link. So it says the PWD Allies calendar. It's the top link pinned on the community tab on my YouTube channel. The third place you're always going to see it is on the bottom four links on every single video. You'll see the calendar there. So there's really no excuse for anybody to say, when is the next show or what's coming up, because you have three ways. There's a whole three ways.
But as opposed to what happened, before 2023, where Brent had a calendar that was written out in long form, and that's great. But it wasn't something that we could all refer to.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where a lot of links were sent back and forth to each other, and so some links.
And we should say too that your email is on every link. I think we have it on every link on every video, and
it's on some.
And my email is there, and at the end of every podcast we show the. On the outro, we have our emails posted there as well. I used to always include Twitter handles, but of course, I'm completely divested of Twitter now, and so as a celebration of being divested from Twitter, I purposely got rid of everything related to Twitter, and so I don't refer to Twitter handles at all anymore. Just emails.
Well, as technology changes and people move on to other platforms, they move on to other ways of communicating and getting the show out. This is the great spot. I mean, just to let everybody know, like, the show has always gone to YouTube. It's like nothing's ever changed on that. It was the starting point of where it was launched from and where it's going to. So it could be launched from wherever, it can always end up at YouTube.
Yeah.
Right. So that it started at Twitter Space, and that became a thing of the past.
But what I love about this, I mean, it's true that this is kind of year 2. I mean, but it really is the first year of legitimately being on YouTube, and the reason I say that is because even though it was always going to YouTube when you were on Twitter Spaces, the big difference between when you used to have it on Twitter Spaces and I used to kind of farm everything over to here, my channel. The huge difference is that it was a cut down episode of only like a maximum of 15 minutes. So I mean that's a big difference, because and I did that. I did that for, economy reasons, of course, but also because I knew like a lot of the audio was just shit anyway, right? I mean, we know how shitty the audio quality was on Twitter Spaces. So, but now that everything's on YouTube, the audio is so much easier to handle, and it's just so nice that you can actually just have a whole entire show. I mean, because like I said, I mean, for better or for worse, some of your shows went for 2, 3, 4, or 5 hours on Twitter Spaces.
Oh yes.
And, I mean, you're not gonna nobody's gonna sit through like 4 or 5 hours and watch back 4 or 5 hours of content, right?
I'd be having to eat lots of popcorn then, Neil.
which is precisely why I cut it down. But now that we have this long form thing of like everything going for maybe like an hour or hour and a half. I mean, people can sit through an hour and a half, right? And it's nice that actually the whole show for the whole past year, we have a whole contained show of a whole hour or an hour and a half, all on YouTube, and it's not cut down, it's not edited, it's live. So even
and the captions, on
captions
YouTube
are great. I don't, they're automatic. That's actually a good point too, Bert. I'm glad you raised that. Is that the captions are not they're automatic, but they don't happen like immediately. They usually happen within 24 hours. We should point that out. So if there is somebody that wants captions and they're going, where's the captions? It's because you usually have to wait about 24 hours before YouTube generates the captions for every episode.
That's actually a very good comment on that, because that was actually brought to my attention a few good times about captions, and I said it's YouTube that actually does that.
Yeah, it's not me. It's YouTube that automatically generates them, but it does take time. It takes them about 24 hours or so, roughly.
Yeah, and, one of the funny moments, kind of go back in the time machine. I remember one of the shows that we did, and this is, we do 2023 in review, but this is kind of one of the funny moments. In a sense, it was. So the show was going, and the audio, it was crap. Like, it was just complete crap, and I knew it because I was getting frustrated. I was trying to launch it, and it would crash, and then launch it again.
Oh, you're talking about Twitter Spaces now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We should clarify that.
The Twitter Space, and it would crash on me. I'm going, oh man! Yeah. And the guest was trying to get on, and I'd get a message saying, okay, I can't seem to make it on here. Yeah, hang on, I'm working through this technical difficulty. So I get on there, and then everyone's on, and guess whose audio crapped out? Mine did, and I'm the host. Oh boy. So anyway, we got through it, and then the show ended up going into an open mic, and then it went back into another show. Okay, that was like, we discussed that. We're like, okay, we're not doing that again. No, this is just not happening. So I had 2 shows back to back. Well, here's the funny moment. Okay, this is gonna be great. So I had one of my guests that was actually on, and then the next show they actually overlapped. So the next show was actually supposed to be like a half hour in between. Well, the show, unfortunately, it went a little bit longer than what everybody else intended, and it was great though. I must say, I really enjoyed the guest that was actually on, and the other guest actually ended up intertwining with the other guests because they knew each other. And so it was like one big party. So now I'm actually hosting 2 guests at the same time, back to back. That was quite the event. But yeah, I must admit the audio format back then is, it's had growing pains, right? And as we moved on to how we are now into we'll be going on to season 2, January 1st, tomorrow, with the format that we're doing now. It's so much better. Video, audio, Twitter Space, we only had audio. So it's very limited.
Well, and the impact on, because as Neil said, it's always been a lot of, hours spent, on things, right?
It was a lot of work.
And with things a little bit more streamlined, you guys were able to take baby steps into doing things like adding the calendar and now pushing things to Spotify and the other places that Neil has mentioned. Yeah,
and more time.
Where else, Neil?
Where else besides Spotify?
Yeah.
Well, if you go, you could actually go to just Spotify. Well, actually, you know what? Another. This is going to sound like I'm plugging my webpage again, but if you go again to daddybentlinks.com, there is a link that's devoted to Brent's podcast, the PWD. There are not a link, I should say, a tab at the top. Actually, if it's on your cell phone, I think the tabs are on the side actually, and they break out from the side. But there's a tab devoted to PWD Allies, and so there's direct links to the YouTube channel podcast where you get to see the video and audio like we're doing now. Or there's also down at the bottom of the page, I also have the links to the audio version of it. And then what happens actually is if you want to see the complete list of all the audio, there's a link at the very bottom of the audio portion of the page of the tab that has your podcast, the PWD Allies podcast. So at the bottom, there's a bottom link that says show more or show more episodes or something like that. And if you click that, it will actually bring you to the Spotify page, which shows you not only all the Spotify versions of the podcast, but also it shows links to Apple. It shows links to Google. It shows links to I don't know all the other ones.
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio is another one.
It's very impressive.
And even just as if you Google too. I mean, I've said as well, like anybody can type into Google, and I do this as a producer. I'm very keen to do this quite often. Is I will put in search terms like PWD podcast or PWD Allies or anything like that, and there's a crap load of stuff that comes up when you type in PWD Allies or PWD podcast. Your podcast, Brent, actually ends up being like right at the top of the list usually. Even like when they show. You know how Google will sometimes show a list of like 10, they'll show a list of 10 podcast titles. Yeah. And quite often your podcast title in the list of 10 will be listed number 1, which is cool. And that's,
well, I mean, the great thing about it is it is easy to find when we know where to look, right?
Yeah.
I love those links on the Spotify one that will direct you to the application that works best for anyone. Right? Because one problem with YouTube that people may not be aware of is when you're listening to on a mobile device and then the screen goes off, YouTube stops playing.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
unless you pay for YouTube Premium, right?
And this is why we did want to give people the option, because of course video requires more data too, right? And if you are going to go on a run or something like that, or for people that want to go out for a jog or something, it's a lot easier to listen to just audio on your headphones on something from Spotify than
Spotify or
listening to a whole entire YouTube, like, because you're getting the audio stream or the video stream as well, and maybe that's a lot more data than you want to bring across, right?
But you can actually pre-download it before you go too.
Yeah.
And do it on Wi-Fi. I've done that myself. I've listened to some of my shows and downloaded it right into there and listened to it on the go.
Yeah, but there's a few things that we've kind of tweaked over time. Like one of the things we tweaked this year is, we still refer to the show as PWD. We refer to it as Canadians with Disabilities and their Allies, but I think people will recognize that I did. For thumbnails and for titling, I did change it to PWD Allies just because it's an easier mouthful, right?
Yes.
Because nobody wants to, even if you wanted to Google, it's hard to type, like, only wants to type in the whole Canadian with Disabilities and their Allies. That's a big mouthful to type out, so it's a lot easier. Yeah. It's a lot easier to just type out really quickly PWD Allies or even PWD podcast. Like I said, we'll even show the result for that too. Yeah, and even for the business card, imagine like I actually even tried putting the whole Canadians with Disabilities and their allies up on the top, and I mean the print size is so small if you have to do it like that, right?
And for people who are just listening, Brent is showing us a picture of a business card he had made up, which I haven't seen before.
Which is with your very fancy logo. We have to remind people that it was your birdie's creation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, and it's great. That's basically thanks to Birdie. Your creation on that. I took it into a local.
It was in my head, and somehow Birdie crawled inside my head.
Yes,
it was like the two of us got together, and I said, I have this picture in my head that there's no way I can get it out because I can't draw more than stick people. And I said, if I describe it well enough, can you transcribe it? So she crawled inside my head, and we figured it out. And I said, this is exactly what I had in mind. She's like, good.
Yeah.
And I mentioned quite a few times, hey Brent, this would be great on a business card. So I am tickled pink, Brent, to see that. That's great.
Yeah. Birdie, I took it down to a local photo place, and they do all sorts of stuff. And they asked me if I want them laminated. I said, not quite yet. Maybe in the next batch, and we'll see how many I can get out. And I was so impressed that they gave me a sample of 20 of them. And I was like, oh, wow. And I said, when will they be done? And, give us about 3 days because they were really busy. And like, how many do you want? And they just give me a sheet of them. And I'm going, okay. And then I said, well, yeah, give me lots, like a box. And they're like, we can do that. Yeah. Amazing enough. I got a whole box of these cards now. And everywhere I go, I'll hand them out to certain people that I think that be very impressed to actually come onto the show. Let's put it that way. I've given to some people that are actually disabled allies. There's also other people that are other colleagues that I've run into. Actually, even amazing part here is Sonia's sister. I didn't even know this. I found this out when we were actually away for Christmas. Her sister subscribes to the channel, and I didn't even know that. So I gave her a business card. I said, here you are. And she says, PWD Allies. Oh, yes, I've already subscribed, Brent. She's awesome show, by the way.
Huh.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. And her daddy watches the show. Her dad watches the shows. So yeah, he says, keep up the advocacy, keep up the good work.
Yeah, and I did want to say as well, like, for the new year, like starting on, I don't think we have anything planned on tomorrow for January 1st, but starting the new year, we're actually going to be starting. It's going to be referred to as season 2, 2024. It's going to be PWD Allies 2024 or just 24 season 2. And it's going to be a separate playlist now. So I'm going to have two playlists. We'll have the PWD Allies 2023 playlist, season 1, and there's going to be a new playlist now on the YouTube channel of a playlist for 2024 season 2.
Cool.
And so there's nothing in the 2024 yet. So until we do a show, there's just nothing. You won't even actually see the list. But I've actually prepared the list, the playlist, and so as soon as we do a new show in 2024, there's going to be now 2 playlists. There's going to be a playlist of 2023 stuff and a playlist of 2024 season 2. So people can. I'll be rejigging my website the way it looks a little bit because I'll make sure I pin both the old content of 2023 and the new playlist will both be there. And when you tab over to the podcast, there's actually a tab on YouTube that's devoted to the podcast. So eventually you're going to see, when you go over to the podcast tab, you're going to see 2 playlists now. You're going to see 2023 and 2024, season 1 and season 2. And so that's a way of delineating the content of between old and new.
There's also another new segment that we're going to be starting in 2024 too. Now, as people would remember, like the round, I call it the round table roundhouse. But it's going to be the new segment starting in 2024, since it's going to be a brand new year starting tomorrow, sometime in early January. We just haven't decided what day yet it'll be on, but the theme that will be on is still going to be on lived experience, and for PWD. So if you want to be a guest to talk about the one topic, but we're going to be starting out the season on transportation.
That's one of your
Yes.
favorites, Brent.
Yeah, yes.
One of my pet peeves too, so
Yeah,
I
so
look
I'm going to
forward
be
to it.
I'm going to be my own guest to start out that. And boy,
You are the guest.
I'll be ranting and raving about that one, and I'll be asking myself the questions too, and of course, anyone else that's actually on a panel that's going to be on, and we have our set panel that's that are actually on there. So we're doing a little bit of a change on that, and I think it's so exciting because the themes that we kind of progress from that point on. I like to have feedback from people to know, like, what do you want to see? Like, what do you want to see going forward? Content
Yeah,
do you want to?
we really want to get people's feedback, and like I said, we do try to have our emails on every episode. So look down in the description, or look at the end of every podcast. During the outro that my son did the recording on.
Yeah, awesome
We
job.
have both our emails are listed there as well. So we really want to get feedback on what people like, what they don't like. I will say, just before we start to tap out here, one of the things we were hoping that people loved was the open mics, and
Right.
to this day, we tried to relaunch them. It doesn't seem like the appetite's there. So if people want them, like, let us know. But for right now, we're thinking of kind of parking them because there really doesn't seem to be an appetite for them.
But revisiting something in the
yeah.
future,
So we'll see.
can just add a new layer, right?
Yeah.
But you don't, you found especially over the last year, doing something with regularity, it doesn't always work, right? Making something, I mean, Sundays, for example, Sundays are family days. Sundays are
some days I'm usually not here, but I always think of Sunday for the monster truck rally, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But we have Dan in chat saying who's on the panel, and that's a good question, Dan. That's one of the things we want to make a special note of is going forward, especially. We're going to make sure that all of our roundtables and all of the panels that we kind of have more experts, right? Like, we kind of initially kind of thought, well, for the life stories and stuff, wouldn't it be kind of cool just kind of to invite whoever wanted a VIP ticket or whatever. But if you're just gonna have your ticket and just kind of park yourself and not really participate, as kind of an empty seat almost, like, even though you're filling a seat, but being an empty seat because you're not really participating, then that's not really a good thing too. So we want to make sure that anybody that we invite on the panel is going to be an active participant and really engaged in the conversation. So even if we keep our panels smaller, like again, like as one example, and it just kind of worked out. It wasn't planned really, but remember the one we did with Tom just recently.
Right.
It just so happened it was only you and me, and Tom and MJ, and that was it. And
right.
And I mean, we actually opened it up to more people, but nobody else showed up. But it really worked out to be a really good show and more intimate because there was actually less people participating. So in that case, it actually worked out really well that there was only 4 of us on. So all that to say that we don't necessarily want to have all 9 spots taken up. This, so going forward we might go forward with less participants and kind of just tap on the shoulders of the experts for particular, like if we're going to be talking about transportation, for example, like you're an expert, and then we have you have some others. I know Dan is really big on transportation in Toronto, so he'd be a great one. But others, of course. But yeah, we want to kind of tap into the people that are the so-called experts on things, and just whether it's only 4 people on the panel or all the way up to 9, we want to make sure whether it's 4 or 9 that all people are engaged, whether it's a small group or a large group. We want to make sure everybody's engaged and participating.
Yeah. Speaking on that topic of transportation, earlier today, Sonia and myself ran into someone that we know, him and his wife, and he said, "Oh wow," he says, "nice bumping into you guys here." And I said, "Well, we were just picking up some stuff for tonight and having a little get together." And oh, cool. He says, "Yeah, keep up the advocacy." Because he says, "Oh, did you did you have a good time for Christmas?" And yeah, we said, "Did you head over to Nanaimo?" I go, "We did." And he goes, "How was that? How was the transportation?" I said, "Well," I said, "Yeah."
Funny you should ask.
Yeah. So I told him, the story, what happened there, and he said, "Yeah, I mean, just keep up the advocacy on that, right?" And that's why the new theme starting in January, going to be talking about transportation. I'm not sure how many how many series we're going to do on that one, but going forward, I mean, if you want to be a guest and talk about transportation, definitely reach out to us. Is it subway systems? Is it rapid transit? Is it your traditional conventional transit that you have? Is it is it e-bikes? Is it scooters? What kind of transportation mode do you use? Do you find it accessible for your disability, or is it somebody in your life that that has obstacles, and which basic mode of transportation is better for them? Is it raised platforms on subway lines? I mean, having it perforated so people with low vision or they're blind. Our last guest that we had on, Aaron Richmond, we talked about that part too.
Yeah,
and that was awesome having Aaron on too. And so I mean, like getting back to about transportation, like it's so important that I want to hear from people. So you want to be a guest on that? Other ideas, accessible ideas, housing. We're going to be basically dive bombing into that. I mean, that's a huge topic, so I think we're probably going to get a lot of huge views on that one for sure. How does that not affect people's lives, right? Yeah. Affordability. We'll be diving into that this year. That's going to be a huge topic. Stay tuned for upcoming segments from MLAs, MPs, MPPs. I think Sonia had a question for me. What was that, Sonia? Adrian Dix. She wants us to get Adrian on. Okay, we'll try to get Sonia, Adrian Dix on. We're going to work on that. We're going to work on getting Adrian on.
And the other thing too is, like, I think people tune in mostly. I mean, we should say I think people tune in mostly for the PWD Allies podcast part, but we should say there's, like I said, there's a crap load of other content on. Especially with your Breaking with Brent stuff. So I mean, if there's people out there that have never seen or not seen very much of your Breaking with Brent, like, please tune in for those. And that's kind of why I wish more people would subscribe, because if you subscribe, you not only will see notifications for the podcast, you're going to see all the notifications for all of the really cool Breaking with Brents and all your travel videos.
Well, and also hear Jake's compositions, right? That's what I really tune in for them for, because
and the Daddy Versus, the gameplay of Daddy Versus.
Yeah.
I love the all the different segments. We got the coffee time, which I haven't done too many of those this year.
But there's so much there's so much
content,
really good content that's not even podcast related.
Yeah,
And
amazing part is you get that notification right on your device. Like, I mean, I'll get a notification because I subscribe to different YouTube stuff myself, and I get a notification, and some of the people will say, "Yeah, I got that notification on my phone." I go, "For what?" Your YouTube. Okay, you're watching. Yeah, because I have a
yeah.
lady in my building, and she watches like downstairs, and she actually watches the show all the time, and she goes, "I get that notification on my phone, and I'm watching." I'm like, "Oh, cool."
And I know there are a few people that have pushed back on me pretty hard about saying, like, why do you bother having extra content, like your son doing like jamming out on his guitar or piano
Why
or something, or doing the gameplay stuff, and the whole actually the food reviews are another one. And
It's
Oh, I
the
love those. Oh, yeah.
conversations. It's the conversations you and Jake share,
But
right?
Oh,
but I
I'll
mean
say
the
those are
reason why
awesome.
we started that is just to like spice it up a bit and
Yeah,
give people like something to smile about, because we know
yeah.
there's not a lot to smile about, and that's what you're a lot of the time that's what your Breaking with Brents is are about too. Like they're serious. There
But they're
there
funny.
there's a serious component of advocacy on almost every single video that you put out for the Breaking with
Yeah.
Brent, but there's also like a really strong humor vibe going through the whole thing too.
Sometimes there's a good twist where, I remember I just said this story many times, so I'm going to summarize it within our show here. My Breaking with Brent last segment I did was the connection on public transit. And I'm going to be diving into that on our transportation segment on January, but definitely running. I mean, you could just imagine a picture of a guy running with a bunch of luggage and running between one bus, the other bus driver, and the other bus driver is getting like really upset because he didn't know what was going on. He's ready to pull away. So he's at a curb, and now he's just turning his wheels. He's just about to pull out, and I'd see a guy running along with all this luggage. Bang, bang, bang! Away! Opens up his door. Whoa! He puts his hands up like this, and he says, "What?" And I go, "Hang on. There's two other people coming." "What? Not just you?" I go, "No, there's two other." Oh, he's so there's two other people coming along. Sonia's running along the sidewalk, trying not to trip and fall. Because if I were to trip and fall too, who am I going to go after? The bus company, after the city? No, it's on me. Like it would be on me because my silliness for running. Well, I mean, it wasn't really silly, but I mean, my silliness for running to try to catch a bus. They always say you should never run for that, but I mean,
But
when
you
you,
don't have other options because
yeah,
transit in your
oh,
area, just like mine, is
yep,
sometimes fictitious, right? Whereas when I
yep,
lived in Toronto, my policy was I wasn't running for a bus. I mean, if the bus wasn't there when I got there,
yep,
I would be able to wait for the
yeah,
next one because we had 15 minutes service. But unfortunately, sometimes, I mean,
yeah.
especially like outside of Toronto, transit is not reliable,
Well,
and it would be great if bus drivers were allowed in their tight schedules to wait.
Well, the problem
Right.
is that you got two, like, it's the same bus company run by BC Transit. Problem is that each community, they don't communicate with each other on their CVs. They have two different networks, but they're the same company, and the bus drivers are frustrated with because one jurisdiction will run it and the other one will run it. But they only allow like a 3 minute connection. Well, I mean, amazing enough. I mean, the guy made up the time, and I thought I was on a ride at a amusement park. The bus driver was squealing around the corner trying to make up the time, and pulls in there as the other one's ready to pull away. And the bus driver felt bad. He waited for the other. Sonia's running along and trying to make her way off the bus, and oh boy, but we made it, and I mean, the holiday was great. We had a good time, but the advocacy that just basically told me that I need to keep really pushing hard on transportation and getting that link fixed because
And
accessibility.
how you do that, a part of how you do that is having those great conversations, because
Yeah.
talking about transportation and keeping it a conversation
Yes.
is the
Yes.
only thing that puts
Yeah.
pressure on,
Mhm.
municipalities
Yep.
also to play their part and allow drivers the freedom needed
Yeah.
to make the service as accessible as possible.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, and that kind of leans right into another guest that I'm going to be reaching out to get on the show in the new year, Eric Doherty.
Oh yes, yes.
So Eric, if you're watching this,
that's what I was trying to ask, Brent.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's already
but just to back up a little bit too, like you said about having conversations, but we should say too, I mean, when you have those conversations, it's not like we all have to agree.
Right.
We can agree to disagree, but the important aspect is to have the conversation. We don't have to all agree, but like you don't have to agree with everything that I believe, Brent, or I don't have to believe everything you know.
Yeah.
But as long as we can get together and have a good conversation, that is always like paramount, right? It's not
Absolutely.
It's not that we all have to agree perfectly. It's that we have the conversation to begin with.
And going into 2024, I mean, I can't think of a better way to look at 2024 is to have, continue to have conversations and to hear each other's viewpoints.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I'd like to see with with the show is for it to grow and blossom more, and that's why I basically want the viewers or the listeners, if you're listening on a podcast later on, I mean, throw us your ideas. Like I'll say it again. I mean, and that really helps us channel your ideas, and we'll compile all your ideas and suggestions, like whatever it is. Like, and
so again, you can share your ideas through email. You can share your ideas going to my website at daddybentlings.com. And you can subscribe to the channel or not. I'm not going to force anybody to subscribe, but even if you don't want to subscribe, even in bare minimum, if you like a comment or you comment or you share a video, like any of that stuff really helps. To like something or to share it out, it just helps push the content out, and it helps with the YouTube metrics. As I've said before, like the YouTube metrics are being a lot more kinder to me now at pushing the content out than we first started, because it was really like it seemed like that YouTube was being really hard on me at first. It's like, oh crap, it's not showing the content.
Yeah, they were testing you, Neil.
But now it's really kind of I can tell the metrics have really kind of opened up and relaxed. So
they like you now, Neil.
It's pushing the stuff out more now, which I love. Yeah.
I must say there was two guests. What I want to highlight for 2023 that I've been working on trying to get on the show for quite some time, and I was just so thrilled when I had Paul Doroshenko come on to the show, and Kyla Lee, who came on to the show also, in two separate episodes, and so people want to know, well, who are they? They're both lawyers, and they both work for Acumen Law in Vancouver.
They were great. They were great. There was a lot of really good. I mean, I only highlighted the politicians we had on, but there was some really good guests we had on. Like even all of our regulars. Like we had Ellen on a couple of times, and Ellen and I geeked out on photo gear, and that was so much fun for me. I love that, because I like geeking out on photo stuff. And so and all the regulars we had on the round table stuff, that was really really good. We had Vivica Alice. I want to get her on again. She was awesome. But really, so many really good guests, and
absolutely,
so we just want to kind of run through and have the same amount of awesome guests, and just kind of.
And at the same time, thank everyone for joining this year, and really looking forward to 2024, because the conversation's going to be, lived experience and transportation.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole broad range of topics under lived experience. I'm looking forward to it. Like health is one thing I'm going to be one of the series that we'll be focusing on too, and more ideas from people. Like when Paul was talking when he came on, he was talking about kind of what he has gone through in his career, and now he's a singer too. He even sang us a song on the show there a little bit. That was pretty cool. Yeah, so
the singing lawyer,
Yeah, and then Kyla Lee on her chip guru part, and I'm
Yeah,
looking
that
forward.
was
She's going
fun.
to be coming in January, I believe. She wants to come in the new year
Okay,
anyway
that's
and do
great.
her chip segment with us.
Yeah, she'll have to
Yeah,
she'll have to find another chip bag to review.
yeah. So if you like to catch up on the latest type of chips, Kyla will be going through that.
That's
So that's
awesome.
gonna be to dive into.
Yeah. We have blown past the top of the hour, so I don't know if you wanted to keep going or
Yeah. Well, we'll just
stop.
start. I guess start wrapping down now. Sorry, Bertie. Go ahead.
Oh no, Neil was right on the ball there.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
everyone, he keeps me right in line.
I try to
there,
keep
right?
you honest there, Brent. Sorry.
Yeah, he keeps right on the time clock. He'll say, "Well, it's right on that time," and then that's the cue to tell me, "Okay, Brent,
Shut her down.
shut her down, Brent. Shut her down." So I want to thank everyone, who has come on to the podcast in 2023. You've made the show a great success, and the show is still growing. If you want to come on, I would love to have you on in 2023. So please,
2024.
it's 2024, you see, because we're still in 2023, and there's not much time left. You see, that was like a little pun on my part, because I was going to say it's only my time. It's only 3:09. The day's still young. See, so there's still just less than 9 hours left, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no more shows for today after today, but in 2024. If you want to come on, definitely start booking your spot because it's going to start filling up.
Yeah.
And Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays are the days that we have available every week. And definitely reach out because we'd love to have you on. Your ideas, lived experience, you name it, it's all there. A family member can have a disability. You can have a disability. It can happen to anybody at any time. We're going to be focusing on, say, the financial part. I know there's been a lot of talk in 2023 this year regarding the CBB and DERB and everything else. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, this 2024. Who knows what's going to come out of all that? All we can do is just keep advocating, keep pushing forward.
Show me the money.
Show me the money, and show me the money. Definitely. As Sonia will always say, I'll believe it when it's in my bank account.
That's right, yeah.
As in, she told me the other day, I'll believe it was in my bank account. I go, well, I said, Sonia, you're going to be waiting for a good while.
Yeah, I know.
She goes, well, yeah, no, it's not good. She's unacceptable. So that came from her, unacceptable. Right? Mm-hmm. So come on, feds. You promised it. Let's get it done. Let's make 2024 a better year. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. This has been a wonderful, wonderful segment. And also,
and it's great to have Bertie back on. We have to say
it is totally awesome. Bertie,
we love our secretary.
We love our secretary, Bertie. And I can't even say the words enough on all the work that you've done behind the scenes and keeping me in line and Brent, all these little things and links and stuff and. That need to be corrected or whatever needs to be happening behind all your artwork with the card. That's totally awesome. And I just want to wish everyone a happy new year on behalf of PWD Allies podcast. And as everyone else knows, the big name, Canadians with Disabilities and their allies. But when people ask me the name of the podcast going forward, I just say PWD Allies podcast. Mm-hmm. Boom, wada bing, because it's easier. Yeah. And if you have my card, reach out, and we'll get you scheduled.
Well, everybody knows where to find us both now. If you just go to the YouTube channel, and like I said, our emails are there, and the contact information opportunity is also there on my webpage, daddybentlings.com. So there's lots of ways to reach out and get a hold of us. And we love getting feedback. I love it as a producer. I love getting feedback. Me too. I love it when people share content and push it out, help me push it out. It's great. So we just want people to continue to do that and to support the channel.
And my biggest thing is I love to see you guys supported. Yeah. Because I know the work that goes on is just, it's not something that can be shown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you are a sponsor out there, you want to donate. If you feel that the content that we're putting out there, you love it and you want to help. I mean, and I'm not telling you that that's what we're asking, but if you really like what you see and what you're hearing, and you say, you know what, I want to help these guys out. How do I do that?
Yeah.
Well, and then what do they do if somebody says, I want to help out this channel. I want to help this cause. I believe in PWD Allies and what they're doing.
Well, there is a link again at the bottom of every video now. I've included a link for PayPal, and I know you have a link as well. I put your link there as well. And again, we don't really I don't like asking for money, really. I don't.
Right.
But we do have to say there is a cost on all of this stuff.
Yes.
Because it takes technology to put these out. It not only takes my great amount of brain cells to put these out as a producer, but it takes a lot of technology, and of course, technology is expensive, and even one piece of the technology is software licenses, and one software license is Zoom, for example, and that's going to be expiring at the end of January, and I'm going to have to re-up again for the Zoom license, which is $200 for the year. So even that small thing
it makes a huge difference.
We all know how much $200 is on a limited budget, right? We all have limited budgets on being on PWD assistance or anything similar. Like in BC, it's PW assistance. In other provinces, it's
they used to be a pension back in the 90s.
Yeah, and so I will pay for it regardless. But it still would be nice because there's that license. There's also the license to put out all those great Breaking with Brent's requires a different software license to do that. I think that's about another $200 or so roughly. So just on those two programs, you're talking $400.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I'm not complaining because I'll pay it. I'm just saying. It would be nice if even if somebody kicked in like $5 or $10, that's $5 or $10 that I don't have to pay. So,
Yeah, imagine if there was like a whole handful of people, $5 here, $10 there, it would all add up, and it really makes a difference. Because
and like I said, I hate asking for. So I mean, I don't really. Honestly, I don't even care if anybody donates anything. But we're just putting it out there, saying all this stuff does. Not only take time and passion, like because you and I both have the passion to do it, but it also takes technology and money.
As we are quite aware, Neil, which is why things had to be streamlined in 2023 because we had previous plans, but it's things have a cost.
Yeah, they do.
Which we do absorb.
Yeah,
but.
Yeah, exactly. And we're still looking for this company right here, Tim Hortons. Just for anyone that's wondering, well, what cup is he holding up here?
And I'm hoping that Michael Bublé maybe will step up as a secret donor.
Well, we'll have to tune in to season 2 to find that out, Neil and Brent. Yeah.
Because I'm gonna keep pushing. I'm not giving up on that. People think I'm probably crazy, but.
People I bumped into earlier, Neil, I said, they're like, oh, you have your Tims, and I said, yeah, I'm going to do the podcast. Oh yeah, okay. Keep up the advocacy. And so they knew, and I've mentioned to the people that I bumped into, we're looking for sponsors, right? So and again, like if you believe in what you're seeing, and like what I'm saying is. Sorry, tongue-tied there. If you're believing in us and you love what you're seeing and what you're hearing, and you love the shows, you love the guests that we have on, the Breaking with Brent, the Coffee Time, the traveling segment, whatever it may be, definitely reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. What else can I say? I just want to thank everybody. Like, this is just from the bottom of my heart. Like, I want to say thank you very much.
This has been a great show to finish off
for subscribing.
Yeah.
And Bernie, like, you know, and I want to thank you like so much for everything that you've done so far, and there's so much more that to do with the show and going forward. And you know, as the show grows, I mean, there's going to be more opportunity for a lot more people to dive in, and yeah, stay tuned on that because it's endless, right? Where we can go from it. Yeah.
And it sounds like that's a wrap, Neil.
Sounds like that's a wrap.
It is. That is.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
On behalf of Canadians with Disabilities and Allies.
Yeah.
All the best in 2024.
Yeah. We'll see you on the other side.
We'll see you, and I say see you next year.
Yeah. Okay. Goodbye, everyone.
Okay. Good night.